Here's the uncomfortable truth about America's most famous political heir. John F. Kennedy Jr. lived his entire life as both a symbol and a prisoner of the very celebrity culture that worshipped him. Born into what many consider the closest thing America has to a royal family, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. entered this world in November 1960. Mere weeks after his father claimed victory in one of the most pivotal. From that very first day, young Kennedy's life would never truly belong to him alone. The relentless media machine that followed Kennedy throughout his existence began almost immediately. As former MTV News correspondent Tabitha Soren observed, JFK Jr. was harnessing his celebrity into something meaningful. And most people don't bother to do that. But was this really his choice? Or was he simply making the best of an impossible situation? Growing up under the intense glare of public attention meant that every aspect of Kennedy's personal life became entertainment for the masses. His romantic relationships read like a Hollywood gossip column. High-profile connections with actresses Sarah Jessica Parker and Daryl Hannah dominated tabloid headlines for years. And this is the part most people miss: the psychological toll of having your most intimate moments dissected by strangers who felt entitled to an opinion about your private life. When Kennedy finally married Carolyn Bessette, a sophisticated fashion publicist, in an intimate ceremony off Georgia's coast in 1996, even their wedding became a media spectacle. The couple attempted to build a quiet life in their Manhattan apartment, but the paparazzi's obsession with them only intensified. Talk show host Oprah Winfrey captured the surreal nature of his existence perfectly when she told him, "You kind of grew up being this public figure even before you knew you were a public figure." Steve Gillen, who knew Kennedy personally, provided crucial context about why this media frenzy was so unprecedented. You have to realize that JFK came to power just as television was becoming the primary source for people getting their news. In other words, Kennedy Jr. became one of the first children to grow up in the modern media age, where every moment could be captured, broadcast, and analyzed endlessly. But here's where it gets interesting and slightly ridiculous. The media lovingly dubbed him John John, a nickname that followed him throughout his life, despite the fact that his own family never used it. According to Kennedy family member Carol Radziwill, "I promise you, his sister didn't call him John John. His mother, no one in his family, even like the extended cousin, ever called him John John." The nickname originated from a reporter's mistake when they misheard President Kennedy repeating his son's name. Yet this fabricated moniker became so embedded in popular culture that most Americans still associate it with him today. Academically, Kennedy pursued American history at Brown University, graduating in 1983. However, even in college, he couldn't escape what he himself termed the JK factor, the special treatment and attention that followed him everywhere. Former Brown classmate Gary Ginsberg remembered, "There was always that kind of special. He got a little bit special treatment that the rest of us didn't get." While balancing his studies, Kennedy also managed campaign responsibilities for his uncle Ted Kennedy's presidential run, demonstrating early on his ability to juggle family political obligations with personal goals. After graduation, 23-year-old Kennedy made what many considered an unexpected choice. He traveled to India to study at the University of Delhi. As Gillen explained, he always said, "You know, I don't want to do what people expect me to do." He needed to do something that stood out. This decision revealed Kennedy's ongoing struggle to establish his own identity separate from the enormous expectations placed upon him. During his time in India, Kennedy began seriously considering law school as his next step, often writing letters that hinted at his future ambitions. Kennedy's legal education at New York University Law School, completed in 1989, became another chapter in his very public life story. Political historian Leah Wright Reger noted the immense pressure he faced. There is an intense amount of scrutiny around what is John F. Kennedy Jr.'s thing going to be. The constant speculation about his political future followed him through law school and beyond. Then came what some might call his most public humiliation, and others might see as his most humanizing moment. Kennedy failed the New York bar exam not once, but twice. Tabloid headlines gleefully proclaimed the hunk flunks, turning his professional struggles into entertainment. However, Kennedy persevered and passed on his third attempt, proving that even American royalty had to work for success. Kennedy's most significant professional achievement was arguably George magazine, which he co-founded with business partner Michael J. Berman and launched through Hachette Filipacchi Media US in fall 1995. This wasn't just another magazine. It was Kennedy's bold attempt to revolutionize how Americans engaged with politics. His vision was clear. Politics is much too important to be left only to the politicians. The magazine's debut was nothing short of spectacular, featuring supermodel Cindy Crawford styled as George Washington on the cover. This provocative choice perfectly captured Kennedy's approach, using celebrity and visual appeal to draw people into political discourse. As George journalist Lisa DiPaolo recalled, George was a huge risk for John. Look, George was a risk for any person wanting to start a magazine. The timing couldn't have been better. The emergence of political entertainment figures like Rush Limbaugh and the Clinton presidency had created an appetite for political content that was both informative and engaging. Kennedy's natural charisma and competitive spirit proved perfect for this moment. On launch day, George sold an astounding 500,000 copies, setting a record as the most successful magazine debut in publishing history. But here's what makes Kennedy's story so compelling and so tragic. He seemed to be finally finding his own path, using his inherited celebrity status to create something genuinely meaningful. George magazine represented his attempt to bridge the gap between politics and popular culture, making civic engagement accessible to ordinary Americans who might otherwise feel disconnected from the political process. Yet this brings us to the most controversial question of all. Would John F. Kennedy Jr. be remembered as anything more than a footnote in history, if not for his famous name and tragic death? Was his success with George magazine a testament to his genuine talent, or simply another example of privilege opening doors that remain closed to others? What do you think? Was JFK Jr. destined to become a significant figure in his own right? Or was he forever trapped by the burden of living up to an impossible legacy? And in our current age of social media and instant celebrity, have we learned anything from how the media treated Kennedy? Or are we repeating the same mistakes with today's public figures?